Listen up. If you're a player, coach, or parent trying to learn more about football, the quarterback position, navigate recruiting, or determine the landscape of both college and high school football, we got the podcast for you. But before we get going, quick shout out to our sponsors over at Lowney Sports. I've known Tim personally, and he's been a longtime supporter of both youth and high school athletes. He's also an attorney of over 25 years and both an NFL and NIL agent. Many think NIL is expensive, unnecessary, or that it only matters once you have an offer, but there's a lot more to know before the scholarships and deals start coming. To contact him for a free NIL consultation, call 617-733-8313 or visit lowneysports.com.
M2QB Academy is also a Wilson brand affiliate. When you're buying Wilson merchandise, go to the website, click checkout, and plug in our promo code M2QB-456 and save some money with your purchase.
Today on the podcast, very, very special guest, Virginia Tech quarterback coach, Danny O'Brien. Coach, thanks for coming on.
Did you guys have me, man?
It's been a while. We saw you down at Tabor last year. I know we've run into you on kind of the showcase time in New England, but how's the transition been just to Virginia Tech after being at Penn State the last 5 years?
Yeah, it's been awesome so far. Obviously, unforeseen circumstances, and it's my fiance and I's first time like moving in this industry as a coach, like being at Penn State the last 5 years. So we both learned really quickly, like, hey, I'm moving. She's like, when do we have to go down? Like, I'm leaving tomorrow morning, kind of a deal. Like how fast it actually happens with the transition, but I tell you what, it's been awesome. Ty Howell, our offensive coordinator, I've been with for a long time, and I've known him forever. He's the best, and just a lot of really good people here. And it's been really cool, kind of blending the guys from the staff and players that were here at Virginia Tech last year, um, as well as some of the staff from other places, along with the Penn State people. Long story short, it's been like a really cool melding of a lot of different people, and I've learned a ton already from some really really good coaches that I've known of for a long time that are now here. So I'm very fortunate in that way. Like I'm learning a ton every day, and a lot of really good dialogue on how we like to do things and things that we want to bring over, some things we want to branch out into. So I know I'm blabbing off the jump, but it's been really fun.
Oh, that's great. Love it. So you've been connected with Coach Franklin for a while. You actually played under him, right? When you were a freshman at Maryland?
Yeah, I did. In '09 and 10, he recruited me to Maryland out of high school. So I've known him for, I guess, over half my life now.
So just talk about that relationship and how it started and what drew you to Coach Franklin and kind of how that relationship's evolved over the years.
Well, I owe so much to him, getting my playing career started as a recruit, and then getting my coaching career started when I got done playing in the CFL. So he holds a very special place in my heart. I owe him a ton. Um, he's really him and Coach Friedgen at Maryland are really the first two coaches that kind of exposed me to the West Coast offense and really started my love for the schematic side and the coaching side of things. Like it was those two being around them that made me realize that I wanted to coach. Like I didn't really know until I got like, oh, I really like this stuff. So that kind of sparked my love for my eventual next career when I got done playing. And he's a second father to me in terms of like I'm super tight with my dad, but it's a different relationship. Like he pushes me. He's made me better as a player and now a coach. He's been doing it for a long time at a high level. So very fortunate, to have the relationship that I do have with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about recruiting back when you were a player coming out of high school and how that compares to now you as a coach recruiting high school kids. Is it a lot different or a lot of the same?
I'd say in some ways it's night and day, and in other ways it hasn't changed at all. And kind of what I mean by that is like I've been pleasantly surprised how many really, really good players still care about the same things that we all did coming out, right? Like being a good fit, maximize my abilities, and going to school and being a high level ball player. The kids that we're recruiting are way more talented than I was, but that part hasn't changed. But obviously, navigating, social media now, and there's camps for everything and awards, and they're ranking these kids earlier and earlier, let alone like the NIL stuff and depending on their situation, like do they have a handler or an agent? Like some of that part has changed, but why I still really enjoy recruiting is the parts that haven't changed of identifying guys that love ball, that want to get better, that want to be developed. And we've been fortunate enough at Penn State and now here at Virginia Tech to have guys that are still wired that way, despite all the things that now come along with it that might not have been there when we were coming out.
I'm sure you get this a lot, Coach, but with a high school, when you're looking at high school recruits, what are some things that you're looking for and that might separate one guy can separate from another, even when they both have a great skill set? Obviously, these high level recruits that are ending up at programs like your own are ending up at.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like the quote unquote easier part is getting that first pool of kids who might have the traits that are good enough to play for you. And I think the majority of our time is spent on getting to know the kid, kind of how he's wired, his intangibles. And I think over the course of time, when you recruit kids for a long time and you're thorough with them, it's kind of hard to fake who you are. And I also think the way that I recruit quarterbacks and we recruit them is it's kind of a self filter in a way. Like I'm not a super flashy graphics every day, flashy stuff recruiter. So I think that kind of weans out some kids, like the kids that from my 6 years now in it experience have magneted to and we've gotten traction with are guys that want to talk ball, have a good relationship, enjoy doing it, enjoy being around each other. Like I tell every recruit, like we're going to spend way too much time together, like the better part of every single day of your career together to not really enjoy being around each other, much less the football stuff. Um, and just being upfront and honest with them, like that's what it's going to be. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be the most worthwhile thing you ever do. But it's going to be challenging. You got to love this stuff to make it and to succeed at the highest level. And that kind of weans it out. So I'd say that along with just getting to know the kid and what he's about and what he's looking for. Um, Kind of whittles down that pool down to maybe your 4 or 5 kids that it's kind of a two-way fit on both ends, if that makes sense.
And you kind of touched on like the social media aspect of it and like things that, and we hit on this in the last episode too, but it'd be good to hear your perspective on it is when you're seeing that stuff, like what is something that you want to see versus something you don't want to see, or something that you kind of, lend yourself to that's good for them to post. And because we have this conversation all the time versus like fatigue, certain kids are posting stuff every day that we don't need to see, right? And then there's other things that I'm sure aside from like just film, things that you see that can help a kid actually get recruited.
Yeah, that's a good question because I think it all matters. Certainly, if a kid is tweeting all the time, 24/7, it's like, okay, does he? The first thing would be to me like, hey, does he love ball or does he love the things that come with ball? And one of that being like attention. You know what I mean? And you have to keep in mind too, they're all young. Like, I don't know what it would be like to come up in this era at 15, 16, 17 years old. Um, and then obviously not posting embarrassing stuff or self-incriminating stuff or silly stuff because, you know, they're young, but at the end of the day, too, you come in here, you're going to be the face of the program. Like if I was the face of the school that I wanted to go to, um, would I still be posting this stuff? You know what I mean? If I was a kid, maybe if I had a younger brother, that'd be the question I would ask them. Like, hey, if I want to be the face of Virginia Tech or name a school, like, is this how I'd want to portray it? I know it's a lot on kids, but it kind of is what it is these days. Like these kids are, like it or not, they're in the spotlight and they've got more eyes on them than they might realize. So like kids being aware of that early and just conducting yourself like a pro, long before you are would be something that I'd look for. And you just got to take everything with a grain of salt because they're young, but it's certainly something that you notice like kind of their presence online.
Yeah. Yeah. And to transition that too into the film, like when you're watching a kid's film, Coach Lamb like, hit on it and he's like, man, the first throw you're going to see is a post or a go, right? It doesn't, you can bank on it. That's what's going to happen. When you guys are watching it and say you got 3 guys all lined up and all else equal, like what do you want to see in that first minute and a half before it's like starts to become redundant with, just guys taking shots downfield?
Well, everyone's got their process, and I'm continually trying to learn from other people. Like Warren Ruggiero, for example, is here as a senior analyst, and he's been coaching for almost as long as I've been alive, and coaching quarterbacks too. So I've been learning a bunch from him. But to me, like the highlight tape for me is an initial filter. You know what I mean? Like if the highlight tape isn't putting out stuff that, okay, things we'd ask him to do, that's an initial filter. If it is, the next thing that I like to do is watch a few full games. Like we have a very big recruiting staff, so maybe pulling up all throws from a season. And for me, yeah, to your point, everyone's going to throw goes and posts, and that's fine. They're big plays. I like to see different types of throws. Like, can he get it up and down? Like the seam type throws, or like a dagger route where I got to get it up and down. You also have to factor in that not everyone's being asked to do the same things, but it doesn't mean they're not good enough to play for you. Like some systems, you can see immediately, like, hey, we run that. You can see him progress through something the way we would ask him to do with the same feet, the same eyes, and that's helpful. But some kids don't have that luxury. So when I watch the full games, then you're more looking for stuff. Once you've checked off, like, hey, they're physically, the arm talent is there. Like the separator stuff for me is like, how does he navigate a tight pocket, like conflict throws? Will he hang in there and deliver on 3rd and 7 with a looper in my face? Like, does he have plays where he's getting hit as he's throwing and hanging in there? Can he throw on the run? Tight window, red zone throws. Like, we start to compartmentalize it kind of finer and finer once you get like the initial highlight tape is good enough.
I think that's a interesting point that you just brought up, Coach, about being able to compartmentalize. I think that we talk about a lot of time with guys, right? You got to be able to challenge the offensive coordinator, the play caller, the position coach, and your relationship with the position coach is going to be a huge increment and huge piece of your ability to get on the field. I think once you reach that point of you're the guy and you're playing week to week, what's your philosophy on like how much you're willing to put on the quarterback's plate? Is it a like player to player thing? Is it as we get more along into the season and see how he reacts in different circumstances, or just more experience overall?
Yeah, no, you're talking about like for our guys here or like
Yeah,
where we're coaching. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a great question because we were actually just talking about this. Like I look at it as a spectrum, like early on, like you're always trying to balance as a coach. How much is too much for the quarterback? And what I mean by that is if it's too much, that's stressful because you're paralyzing a dude at the line of scrimmage, and you might have a really good player who's hampered by that. And then like what I've dealt with too is like when you have really, really smart players, sometimes taking too much off their plate can be stressful because they know how to solve problems and kind of finding that balance with your guy. What can he handle versus what is too much? That's like a week in and week out and year in and year out process. And it requires what you hit on, which I loved, Jimbo, was the relationship between the player and the coach. Like that's what I'm so excited about here is like the lines of communication between Coach Franklin, our head coach, Ty Howell, our OC, me, the quarterback coach, obviously being very tied in with the pass game, and all of our quarterbacks. There has to be really clean, open, and honest conversation and dialogue between all levels. And our guys, I just got done telling them yesterday, and I'll tell them a million more times, you got to be comfortable coming into my or Ty or coach's office and raising a question or voicing a concern, because if we don't know, it makes it harder on us. To your point of like, hey, coach, I can handle repointing a mic, or I can handle a man zone check. Those are really valuable things for us to know as a coach. Like, what can we put on your plate that you're comfortable with without slowing your pace of play down and playing at a high level? Because you can live too far on either end of the spectrum, in my opinion, if you're not careful.
And just looking back at your time at Penn State, the guys that you had playing quarterback, it seemed like you really focused on develop from in the inside, right? As opposed to going the transfer portal route. If you look at Sean Clifford, and then Drew Aller and even McSorley, right? There was long tenured quarterback there through your time there. Just talk a little bit about like development and how you handle that on a year to year basis. Say you get a kid who comes in, he's a freshman, maybe not playing, and then he's going to be the guy the next year. What does that timeline look like, and what are some of like your plans for development throughout that?
Yeah, that was a huge pitch when we were there. Was at the time up until this past year, Penn State was the only Big Ten or SEC school to not take a transfer portal quarterback out of both of things, like 30 some teams now. And I walked into that obviously because you had Hackenberg and then Trace, and I got there with Cliff, and we continued it. Um, and it's a two-way deal. You got to bring in the right kids who are looking to be developed, and not a kid who's going to come in and not play right away and be out. So you got to know that on the front end. And I think too, the onus is on us as a staff, not just to talk about developing the whole room, but to do that every day and have an action plan for all your guys every day. Because from my experience, if you get the right kids and they feel like they're getting better, no matter where they are in the depth chart, and the depth chart is open and honest and transparent, like, hey, dude, like, here are the things you need to work on to take the next step. And when they do that, they're rewarded for that. What I found is like you can keep kids for multiple years throughout their. Are you going to keep them all? No. Like we had a couple that, hey, the way it shook out, like they graduated or whatever, and maybe it makes more sense for me to go somewhere else. Like that does happen, but you just eliminate if you can eliminate the 1 or 2 year and out guys, you really don't need to go to the portal. Obviously, you got to hit on them and develop them. But if you can get the right kids and they feel like they're being developed, it allows you to kind of have a bullpen of dudes who like what I preach all the time is like staying ready so you don't have to get ready for the moment because you never know when it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like I think back to the last couple of years, like Drew goes down and Bo Prabilo comes in and does a great job to win a game on the road at Wisconsin. Drew goes down this past year and Grunk did a really good job. And that doesn't just happen. Like I told all our young guys last week, those things don't happen by accident. Like it's coming in and putting your head down and just getting better every day. So when your time does come, you're ready to take the reins and roll. I know it's a long answer, but all that goes into not having to lean on the portal every year to go get your next guy.
And is your philosophy the same now at Virginia Tech? Obviously, the landscape is continuing to evolve and change. And coming in right now, you're trying to establish your roster. So obviously a little bit different philosophy. But once things get settled there, is that pretty much where you think you guys will be at as far as development?
Yeah, that's going to be our model. It's coaches. It's mine. I believe in it too. Obviously, coming in here and having only 2 guys on the roster, you had to bring in a couple. We're very, very young. We're very, very talented. But the goal would be you don't know in this day and age, but the goal would be to kind of begin that model now here going forward where you're getting really high end kids out of high school, developing them, and then having them ready when their number's called to have a multi-year, really successful college career and set themselves up for an opportunity to be drafted and play for a long time after.
I was just
I'll
gonna say,
go.
how do you work to prepare that? Like in season, even I guess is where I want to focus it. But preparing the starter, right? He's got to be game ready. All these other checks, and 1,000 things going on at the line of scrimmage versus also continuing to develop, 2 and 3, and how do you keep them kind of, or what's your philosophy in terms of in season, like keeping them engaged to a point, or is that more so you're just pushing it on them and there's been a standard that's established, and that's understood that, listen, man, it's a professional thing that we're doing here and you have to continue to stay ready no matter what? Or is there things that you put in place to kind of help those guys stay engaged, or just is that transparency you talked about? Like we're clear with our communication, like he knows if this happens, like it might be his shot, or you're a play away at all times. How do you get those guys ready while maintaining that starter balance?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's a little of both. One, it's the culture of the room, like again, that I kind of walked into of like the older guys kind of showing the younger guys how to work. Like I tell them all the time, the freshmen, you're gonna blink and you're gonna be the older guy, and there's gonna be some 2030 kid coming in who has no idea. Just remember how the older dude treated you when you got here. You know what I mean? Like when Drew Aller came to Penn State, Clifford was an immediate mentor to him. And then as he rose up through the ranks, he was great with Smolik and Grunkmeyer. And those guys, that's the cycle of that in terms of the culture of taking the younger guys under your wing, watching film with them. How do you prepare? And then as a coach, just kind of laying the framework for how we prepare for an opponent week to week and helping them out with like look tapes, voiceovers. We had the VR system at Penn State, which we're fortunate enough to have here too, the Cognalize deal, which has been awesome. Like we did the math last year. Like, if our 2 throughout a week was getting 30 to 40 reps live in practice because there's only so many to go around. He was getting on average like 300 to 400 reps on the VR, which you
Jeez.
can program up, which is really cool. Using the shit out of that throughout the week, the off season, and then we're really big on like 1% goals. Like, what's my one thing I'm going to get 1% better at tomorrow? And we do that every single day, starter all the way down to whoever's last on the depth chart. And for the guys who aren't getting quote unquote varsity reps during the season, where coach is huge on like developmental squad scrimmages on Sundays. They'll
Hmm.
stay after and get certain things that they're working on done. And that takes a team. Like we're fortunate here to have 2 other guys in the QB room with me. And I obviously Trace last year, like we worked hand in hand with all those guys because you have to give them enough attention. Like, yes, do we want them to be accountable and watch the film and do the stuff on their own? Absolutely. And they did a great job with that, but you have to show them enough time, especially during the season when it gets constrained, to like carve out time where they feel like they're getting checked in on daily and weekly and their progress is being tracked. So it's kind of all of it. And then that's how I do it. And that's kept them locked in and feeling like they are getting better.
Yeah, and I think that like for us, I think something that we're interested in too is like you spoke upon Drew and how he kind of dealt with some adversity this year, and obviously a big time prospect if he had come out last year and all these things that went on. But with him, like what would an NFL team like expect? Like what are they getting with him? Because I know watching him, and we're gonna touch on your 2024 season at Penn State too, and how special that was. But like he's a special kid and a special player, obviously. Like what should someone expect when he shows up?
Yeah, I think you got a very talented kid with all the tools who's wired the right way. You know, he'll be able to do everything you would want physically on the field. I think that people can forget he's 21 years old. You know, he could have very easily been a 2023 kid and not been an old one. He's 21 years old at the moment. He's got a chip on his shoulder, just the way it all kind of went down this year. I think all of us kind of do, to be honest, which I think is going to help him in the long run. I've talked to him about that. Um, and then he might surprise some people on the board and in these meetings of like talking ball, things he's capable of doing and steering at the next level and what he'd be asked to do. And he's just a ball junkie. His football is certainly ahead of him. And I think when you couple that with a kid with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove, he's going to make a locker room happy. You know, wherever he ends up and whatever his timeline looks like in terms of getting on the field, like you're going to get a kid who loves ball. He's no nonsense and he's got all the tools. So I'm super excited for him, and I can't wait to follow.
Can you talk about that 2024 season a little bit? That's your first season full-time quarterbacks coach. Just quite the journey, multiple playoff wins. Comes down to a heartbreaker at the end against Notre Dame. Just give us a little bit of your memories and insight on that season.
Yeah, a ton of highs, and the lows obviously probably sting more than all the highs do combined with how it ended and coming so close to a national title appearance, but so far it felt like I think of being down at USC on the road. I thought that was kind of one of Drew's coming of age games in our offense, for that matter, where you're down, you're on the road against a very talented USC team and finding a way to win in overtime on the road with a bunch of big fourth down conversions. We're not in the playoffs if we don't win that game. And even games like on the road at Minnesota and gritting one out. There's a ton of really, really special memories of that season. A lot of special players that I'm grateful to have been a part of their ride with. And then, the games like Notre Dame are what keep you coming back and keep you motivated and hungry. But special year, all that said, what I won't ever allow myself to overshadow is all the good times and all the memories we had and how many pretty special things we did, winning 13 games with a really special group of kids. I force myself to remember those times as well. And we'll remember those times in the kids and the locker room and the memories more than downfall, although that stings. And that's kind of life, man. Like you gotta, learn from those things and make yourself better going forward with it. But lot of highs, and you let the lows motivate you for sure.
Coach, first, loved watching that team, right? Huge fan of that run. Super happy for you guys there. Was pulling for you. But I wanted to touch on what's your mindset after a year like that, right? Really successful, all those wins, making the playoff. What are you are you going back to square one a week after that, right? That next Monday? What's just your philosophy after that huge year?
Yeah, we gave the guys, it was a super long season, obviously, and with the counting out, but so close to winter workouts and all that, where you want to give them enough time to kind of decompress and not give them like 3 days off and like you're back in the way, like physically, mentally, emotionally, and all that. So we kind of like gave them a good week. Maybe it was 2 weeks. I'm forgetting now, to kind of like decompress, let it all marinate, because obviously no one hurts more than the players in the room that were a part of coming so close and losing. And then, yeah, you're running your self-scout cut-ups. Hey, what are some things you did really well that we want to build on? What are some areas to improve? Once that gap in time to kind of like decompress has happened. So it's square one, but you're starting from so much further along year two in that offense and all those things. And we had a super motivated group. Obviously, 25 went the way that it did. But those dudes were motivated and busted ass, and that's the reality of football, man. Like, there's no guarantee how the next year is gonna go. You know what I mean? But those dudes were locked in and hungry. We started to answer your question a little further down the line, like systematically, because we kind of knew who we were and where we wanted to build and add. Anytime you're in year two of a system, you're starting a little bit further ahead, and you're kind of more getting the young guys up to speed or the portal guys. Yeah, it was a really good offseason. 2025 results notwithstanding.
How was that transition for you from being an analyst to a GA to then that year being a full-time quarterback coach? Was there a lot of learning and a lot of adjustment for you, or was it similar to years past?
It was similar in a lot of ways. I try to like kind of like at the time it was Mike Yersich, like study what he was doing and things that I really liked, how he prepared. I think the biggest jump is just the organization. Like, okay, now it's yours. Just the time it takes to run a meeting and come in prepared with the cut ups you want. You're running the recruiting board alongside the recruiting staff. Like the operational deal, there's certain things you don't know until you're in the role. You know what I mean? What it takes and the time allocated to do it the right way. The ball's the ball, and that's the fun part. But just kind of like the behind the scenes prep work, getting things presented the way you wanted it, worded the way you wanted it, being consistent with that as a teacher and running the room every day. Just the time involved, the later nights and the earlier mornings. But other than that, quarterback plays quarterback play, and that part was really fun. And I've been fortunate enough to be around some really good quarterback people, in the building and outside the building that I've just stolen from and still steal from, every day.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is like, did you pull most parts of your philosophy from your coaching experience? Does any of it come from your playing experience? Because obviously, played 4 years in college, had a ton of success, ACC Freshman of the Year at Maryland, played at two other schools as well, went on to Wisconsin and then to a Division II school, and then played in the CFL, NFL minicamp. Like you've played a lot of ball, you've been in a lot of different places. Where did you pull like a lot of your philosophies that you have now from?
Yeah, I think like my journey in college, being at three schools and then NFL, then CFL actually kind of helped me now that I'm in a coaching role because I was around so many different coaches and coaching styles. And once I knew I wanted to coach after my first year in college, I kept every playbook. I made notes of like, hey, this quarterback coach or OC or head coach, I really liked these parts about them. And then maybe there's some other things I really didn't like this part about them. So when I'm a coach, like just remember that and I kind of review them every year. And then getting in the industry, just as I continue to get to know other coaches, I'm constantly trying to steal like, hey, here's a drill or here's a coaching point or a way to word things. I really like that. And I just kind of have this like master file. I just try to steal everything that I think is a good idea and try to incorporate it. Like when we get y'all here, I want to hear the drills that you guys are doing and pick your guys' brain. Like, dude, I really want to do that. Or like maybe I have a cue word that hits the quarterback. That's better than what I did. Like I think what I've found, like just through studying other people, is like the best coaches on any level have no ego in terms of I know it all and I'm the best and I'm the guru. Like those are the ones, in my opinion, that kind of fall behind. Like if I'm doing the same thing in 5 years as a coach that I'm doing now, shame on me. You know what I mean? We're always asking our players to get 1% better and grow and evolve. Like it made no sense to me to coach the same way for 5, 10, 15 years if we're asking our players to do that. So I'm just kind of always trying to steal, whether it's online or people I know or getting you guys down here, like just good ideas from anywhere that I can, because ultimately it makes our quarterbacks better, and that's our job, is the way that I look at it.
Yeah, I love that answer. We talk about it all the time, even to our kids, like just being a lifelong learner.
No
Like
doubt.
you can never know too much, and that's what we try to do as coaches too. Like we're teaching what our mechanics and the fundamentals and the movements that we're teaching now are way different than 5 years ago. And that's like you said, if you take the ego out of it and you're just willing to try to learn from as many different perspectives as possible and continue to grow every year, like that's how we've kind of tried to continue to evolve and learn as much as we can from as many people as possible. And selfishly, that's a big part of the podcast too, is like having you guys on and learning from you guys is so beneficial for our kids, but also for us. So that's awesome.
No, that's the way to do it, in my opinion, no doubt about it. And I am going to get y'all here. So that's on the
Oh yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yep, for sure.
One of the things too, like we started talking about the transition, and then you kind of took us into a meeting room and talked about the preparation that takes as you transitioned. Like, can you take us through like a day in the life of a Virginia Tech quarterback? Like when I get into a meeting with Coach O'Brien, like what am I expecting to see, or structure my day a little bit, because I think it's important for the kids to kind of hear like the type of commitment and the type of lifestyle that you now lead as a Division I football player.
Yeah, no doubt. So if it was like when we get into like spring football when it gets flown, because right now it's like winter workouts. We got a little bit of time, it's not a time, but like for spring, a day one of spring ball, let's say it's on a Tuesday. I think it's like March 17th. Beforehand, like they would have gotten the install. We would have talked about it in meetings prior, and then here's like the install for day one, which they'll be very familiar with. They'll have a voiceover, they'll have notes. Here's our read, here's our progression, here's our drop, all this stuff. They would have been expected to, one, pay attention to the meeting the day before, look at the voiceover that night. Okay, then that morning, a lot of our guys will come in early, whether it's tubs or stretching or arm care or something like that in a prehab deal, they'll do that. A lot of them will come in early with me and kind of talk through the install one more time. We'll have the actual meeting, we'll have the practice. They'll get the film. They'll be expected to have watched the film. Again, we do like the 1% goals. So like, hey, watch the film. I've got a little Google Drive, a little Google Sheet. Hey, what's your 1% goal for tomorrow after watching that? Okay, they'll go to dinner. I expect them to kind of do that, shortly after dinner, whatever that is. The next morning, just for perspective for your high school guys listening, okay, we'll recap that film. Typically, we'll recap that together. We'll talk about our 1% goals, any notes that us coaches have going into the next deal. Kick out install two, then they'll go lift. If it's like a spring lifting program right there, they'll knock out the lift of the day. Again, probably a little bit more prehab. A lot of the guys in between days will come back into my office on their own and kind of preview install two, if you're kind of going through that format. And then we kind of repeat that cycle. So it's a lot, man. Like, it's a full time deal. Much less balancing the school with that. They didn't mention like going to class during the middle part of that day, and being on top of that, hitting tutoring, study hall, all that stuff. Like it's a full time deal. Like there's if you don't love it, you're not gonna like it for very long. As a Division One
Yeah.
or any level college
Yeah.
quarterback for that matter.
I remember like the first week of preseason as a freshman in college, and it's like you're waking up at 6 o'clock, you're going to bed at 10:30, you got practice, meeting, like every second is accounted for. You're like, damn. Like you said, you have to love it. You have to love it. And especially like the mentality kids have, a lot of them is like Division I or bust, right? But they don't really understand like the rigor and the demand and how hard it is. So I think an insight like that is really important. When you get recruits in, so say a kid commits to Virginia Tech, comes in as a freshman, what are some areas, commonalities, things you've seen over the years that kids struggle with the most, just kind of adjusting from high school into that college, obviously very high level of football?
I think the first one that everyone that I've been a part of as a freshman goes through is just the human element of being homesick. Even if they're not far from home, like you hit it, Mike, like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, all the time. Like that's an adjustment. And then I don't have my core, whoever that is back home. They're all homesick. So like checking in on them, like Troy Hoon's a freshman here, like checking in on him weekly. How you doing? California kid out here in Blacksburg, Virginia, like that part of it, just missing home. And then like you hit on too, just like you can know it ahead of time, but until you go through it 6 a.m. to 9, 10 p.m. every night, like just getting adjusted to like every minute of my time is accounted for. And people are going to be following up. Like if I miss class, someone's checking the class and then they're on my ass for that. If I'm late to something, like just the 24/7 accountability of it, there's always a learning curve, even with the most elite wired kids of like, okay, here it is. You know what I mean? And that takes some time. You know what I mean? Talk to our guys all the time about like you're going to make mistakes wherever it is. You're going to make them. Just learn from them and don't be a repeat offender. I mean, like that is a natural learning curve of this deal of just A to Z, like what it really takes. But I'd say homesick and the schedule without a doubt. Like the football stuff, it's gonna feel like drinking water through a fire hose at first, but they settle in typically. It's kind of like just the whole deal is like oh man, and then they slowly kind of settle in.
No, that's great.
Are there like some
It,
tricks
yeah, go
that are
ahead.
like some tricks of the trade that like you kind of help them? I know obviously you check in on them, but like as a quarterback, and you mentioned guys taking guys under their wing. Like, is there a level of responsibility that you kind of put on them to help shoulder the load a little bit with some of the new guys, like helping them not only as a quarterback but adjust to that transition?
Yeah, no doubt. And that's where I talk with the older guys all the time. Like, just remember you were that kid once upon a time and how much you appreciated the older dude taking you under his wing. Like, let's go grab a bite to eat. Come over to the house. Am I gonna have the guys over to the house? Yes, but like it's their team. Like, those are the things that form a tight quarterback room or a tight team. Is like, bro, just come over to the house, man. Let's go eat dinner and kind of kick back and talk a little bit. You know what I mean? And just keeping in their mind the perspective again, like you were once that dude, and there was a guy on the team that you will forever appreciate easing, that transition because we've all been there. I think you're not alone in this. In fact, everyone has had that moment, like helps mentally, like, okay, I'm not messed up.
This episode is brought to you by Cantiani Insurance Agency, insurance professionals specializing in home, auto, flood, and investment properties. They are the most referred insurance agency in Massachusetts. If you want coverage you can trust, call 508-791-2088 or visit cantianiagency.com. We also welcome a new sponsor, Wizard Computer Services, providing outsourced IT and cybersecurity since 1997. Call 781-341-2222 or visit www.wizardcpu.com for more information. New England's cybersecurity experts. Trace mentioned Coach Franklin putting a lot on the players, like just in terms of, being a leader and establishing the culture. How has that kind of transitioned to Virginia Tech that you've seen, especially with your guys? What is their role in establishing the culture of the 2026 Virginia Tech Hokies?
Yeah, obviously, like we're gonna drive them as coaches, but you don't want a coach-led team because it's a players' game and it's their team. So yeah, are we gonna provide the structure and push them and challenge them? Of course we are. That's our job. But like creating environments where players can lead. So we'll do things like, well, right now a good example would be like player-led throws. Like we're not allowed to go throw with them, but like having like, dude, quarterbacks, y'all set it up, y'all organize it, y'all get them there, y'all hold them accountable, and it forces them to be the organizer. Just things as simple as like who's going to line up where, what routes are we going to throw, preparing that ahead of time. That empowers people to be player led when the coaches aren't there. Like it doesn't have to be us there pushing them all the time. And there's certain parts of the year where we can't. Letting guys get up in front of the team and share a little bit of their journey so we can get to know each other, especially in today's day and age. Like there's probably more portal guys on this team than we had in any given year at Penn State because coach kind of had it rolling. But like just getting to know dudes and like where they're from, who they love, who's important to them, who's their hero, what's a heartbreak they've had, like letting them get up in front and talk in front of the team to kind of get to know each other, whether it's that or in small groups, like we're out to dinner, like just finding as many ways as we can to put the players in position to be leaders and then showing them what that looks like and encouraging them. Like in my room, I talk about all the time, like leadership doesn't look one way. You know what I mean? Like you got to be genuine and some people are rah rah and be on top of the table and scream and yell. If that's you, go do that. If it's not, it's pulling a dude to the side. Like that's okay too. Like you got to lead by example, one, and then two, just like be yourself. You know what I mean? And kind of grow into that. So as many ways as we can to put them in position to do that, I think is really important.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see, like you said, the retention year to year, which in this day and age is really challenging. Now you mentioned a little bit, but there's times in the off season, quarterbacks have time off. There's obviously times that you guys can't coach. Say it was one of our kids. Say we had a kid commit to your program, right? And he's in the off season and he has some downtime and he's back home with us. Like, what is us or anyone really as a quarterback trainer? How can we make your life easier?
Oh, that's a cool question. I'm not just saying this because you guys are QB trainers, but I love to have a really good relationship with our guys' trainers for a bunch of reasons. One, we have a shared love of the game, but two, it's really cool to me, again, like if you guys have a really good buzzword, I'm gonna steal that. We've talked about that. But then also like, hey Mike, if you're working on whatever, like one of so and so's goals is to get better at, getting the ball up and down on a seam or whatever. Hey, here's our footwork for it. If it doesn't mess with you, anytime you do it, can we take this drop just because here's how we do it and time up in our system? Like that helps a lot. So like now we're like stealing reps while they're away where it pertains. And then when there's drills that you guys want to work on, like that's fine too. And I love living in that world as well. I just feel like the more I am connected with the trainers, it makes both easy to where like they're just continuously like stacking their gains, and it's not just here's the quarterback trainer world and then I get over here and there's no translation. So I'm just really big on like
Yeah,
the
when there's
synergy of
synergy
us
there.
working
Yeah,
together.
exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely
and
agree.
I've just found that that just compounds their growth, and they come back better than when they left on both ends. You know what I mean? To where it's not, I'm not the like, you hear some old school quarterback, where'd you learn that? Your trainer? Like, no, they do some really good stuff, man. Like, let's use that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have. So I
Yeah,
don't
and
know if
you're
that answered your question exactly,
definitely.
but just
Yeah.
working together.
Yeah, definitely. And you're starting to see that in the NFL a little bit, right? With like Patrick Mahomes and his trainer and Bobby Stroop and tied in with the Chiefs, and other programs as well. Do you think college will ever get to that with like QB developers on staff, or maybe change the rules in the off season, or just any thoughts on that? Because we talk about it all the time. Like, why not? Obviously, you don't have a ton of time, and a lot of your focus is X's and O's and um, things of that nature. But do you think it'll ever come to that?
Way above my pay grade, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And until then, like I've kind of taken that approach, Mike. Like, yeah, I'm not the expert in that. I don't live that every single day. So how do I become as schooled up on the latest and greatest in that as possible to where when we are together, I'm not hurting their development with that when they do go to you guys. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like I'm an
Yep.
extension of that. I'm like that, just the light version, but we can continue to grow and stack it. Cause obviously, to your point, you get into like a spring ball or a fall camp, only a small percentage of your time can be allotted to that. So a lot of the gains are in those periods where we can't be with them. But yeah, it's a really good idea.
See.
No doubt. Call me.
Makes too much sense. No, I think that's good though because like you talked about your time, like and how limited it is, and how you need to be, prioritizing this, and this to make sure um, you get what you need to accomplished versus the other side of it, which is like what you said, kind of what we focus on in terms of development. But with the quarterbacks in the room, right, and trying to continue to preach that throughout a season long environment, like are they doing things outside of that time frame to kind of keep up with their development in season? Is that something that you see, or do they try to workshop that in as much as they can with the time that they have? What have you seen kind of some of your guys do? Because like Mike said, the retention you've had in the QB room and the development you've seen in your QB room specifically and with your programs has been incredible. So what are they doing during the season to kind of maintain that level of just high caliber play?
Oh, they spent a ton of time on that exact deal. Like, okay, when it does shrink to where like the fundamentals or the firing patterns or the sequencing, the time goes down. Like we spent a ton of time a couple of years ago, it was right when I got the quarterback job. Like, how do we continuously tap into that with limited time? So to directly answer that, like before they're gonna do all their plyo and all their activation stuff before practice, we hit the field. I call it like the intentional 30. And it looked a little bit different with each guy based on their trainer. Brad had a couple, like Drew and Grunk had the same one, so theirs was the same, but each guy had their own intentional 30, which is essentially this like once you get activated and primed up, like your first 30 throws, like I work really closely with y'all or whoever the trainer is, like what are the best 30, their first 30 throws? What are the best things in y'all opinion to tap into the muscle memory of what you teach and what we teach, which is often the same, like from studying it, to where that 30, those first 30 throws were the exact same every time, and it tapped into whatever would get them like sequenced up every single time as just like a daily reminder of hitting that every day, to where we're not just getting in there, warming up and like forming bad habits or getting away from it. And it's not a big thing, but I found that like the compound effect of that, asking our guys, kind of added up throughout a season where every single day I'm at least going through that every single time and I'm kind of grooved up between that and then maybe an indie drill, maybe once a week, working more on like sequencing or how I'm finishing. energy transfer stuff. If we can steal that while working a concept, great. And it's like just little things every single day, one or two things a day, where time is limited. I've found has been really beneficial.
Yeah, I like to touch on the habits portion of that too. Like kids will take time off, and this has been kind of a hot topic for us too. Is like kids who, you know, begin to get a lot of attention and the whole deal, and they get a little bit content and start to take time off, or like, no, I'm working it on my own. But then you see them warm up, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like that, it's
No
you need
doubt.
to be able to find that. So I like that first 30 that you mentioned there. I thought that was cool. Like, what is it? Because different guys are different things, right? So like, what is it that makes him click? Does he need to start to move a little bit? Does he need to get on the run? Does he need to work left and throw right? What is like that's going to start to help him kind of find that rhythm? So I think that's good. That's awesome that you guys incorporate that because your guys have obviously had a ton of success. So there's something that they're doing right.
I think it's so cool that you're working to learn as much as you can from quarterback trainer, like the guys that they work with and trust. Like you run into some programs where coaches are, this is the way we do it, this is the way I did it, and this is the way you're going to do it, and it's my way or the highway. And I think programs and coaches fall behind in that area. Where you're working to learn as much as you can, understanding that, like you said, you're not living it 24/7, right? So much of your focus is shifted in other areas, but you're still taking the time to generate those relationships with the quarterback coaches. And then I think that shows the quarterbacks too that you care and you value them. And a lot of the times they've been with that quarterback coach for, 8, 10 years. And I think that's really cool. That's awesome. And I think that's ahead of the game. And I think that could play another small part in the reason why you guys retain your guys and do such a good job developing. So that's awesome. And Brad's the man, by the way. We know him, and he does a really good job. So that's cool that you're able
Right.
to.
He's a good dude. He speaks
Yeah,
highly of y'all too. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been awesome, and yeah, yeah, I've learned a ton from him, and it's been awesome. And I think your point's a good one. It's a win-win for everyone. Like really good trainers make quarterbacks better, so why not use them? Two, they have a really good relationship with them, so why divide it? You know what I mean? And
yeah.
then three, why not just continue the growth? You know what I mean?
Well, like you said, you can start to build in the drops and other things, and they can get intentional reps where they're growing in your system while they're not with you. So I think it makes so much sense.
Yeah, no doubt.
And like Mike said, selfishly, I was just saying, like Mike said, selfishly, like sometimes we're so far on the other end of the spectrum in terms of, like you said, like optimizing their efficiency and their sequencing. And like sometimes I need to get back into the actual game, right? To try and figure out how we can better prepare our kids in terms of, creating that and reactionary type of stuff and pocket movements to get them prepared for what you guys do. So I think, like Mike said, it does make too much sense for one day for it to kind of be all molded together. But no, it's great, and like all the quarterback trainers that are doing a good job, like use them, and I think that's exactly right. I think that can steer someone towards your program versus somebody who's maybe a little bit more hesitant to dive in deep with the trainers.
Yeah, and I tell recruits like, dude, like when you're visiting other places, like ask that question, like, hey, what's your development plan look like for me? Because you'd be surprised. Like, there's a lot of good ones. We're not the only ones doing this, but like, you might be surprised. Like, there might be a guy that's doing the same thing from 2004. I would just, not to mean you wouldn't go there, but I would want to know that. Like, how am I going to continue to get better as a thrower of the football along with the football development side? That's a good question for kids to ask at every school they go to. Like, hey, what's your plan? You know what I mean? For me.
Yeah, I totally agree. So another hot button topic that's been talked about a lot, like travel 7-on-7 or 7-on-7 in the off season. How do you view it as far as development? How do you view it as far as recruiting? Like, do you pay attention to it at all? Just your thoughts on it, overarching thoughts.
Yeah. A lot of parents have asked me that, and my honest answer is like, it's never going to be a reason we recruit or don't recruit you because you light it up at a 7-on tournament. There's just too many variables, and it's a little bit different. Hey, is there value to getting out there and competing and seeing other really good quarterbacks and players from across the country and doing that? Of course, but like, don't let it take away from the main thing. But if you want to go out there on a weekend and go have fun and throw it around and compete, I think it's awesome, but not a determining factor for whether we would recruit someone or not because they're on the 7-on circuit or not. At least me personally, that's all I can speak to. Um, so I think it's a fun thing. It's a cool tool, but not a big deal for me, to be
Yeah.
honest.
No, I think that's a great answer, and I think a lot of the college coaches we've talked to have similar responses with that. Talking about recruiting a little bit, when you are going to these showcases, like the one we have in Massachusetts, those showcase days, or even just going to see a kid throw in shorts and a t-shirt, what are you evaluating? What are you looking at?
If it's a kid that I've seen before or I'm convinced on tape he's really good, I think the big thing I'm looking at getting to like the intangible side is like if I know a kid can spin it, okay, I'm gonna check that box off pretty quickly. But then I'm looking more for like what kind of presence does he have out there? If he's with his guys, is he kind of running the show? How do they respond to him? Like what kind of energy is he bringing out there as a leader? You can kind of feel that. His relationship with the coaches. You'd be surprised how different those can go just in terms of that stuff. So again, like, yeah, we'll throw all the stuff, we'll throw on the run, we'll do what everyone does, and that's all well and good. They can either do that or they can't. But I'm more looking for just the general. How is this guy out there as a leader? He's clearly one of the best guys in the team in terms of that's why we're there recruiting him. So I'm more looking for that stuff, and it's a lot less. Hey, can he throw the field out? Because I'm going to know that if that makes sense. I like to be there physically to kind of like feel him out there as a leader.
I think that's great for kids to hear because a lot of times we ask, oh, how'd it go? Their main concern is how well they threw. But like you said, you're going to know coming out, like how he's throwing and how the ball's coming off his hand. You've seen it enough. You're going to know if this kid has it or not. It's more the intangibles and the other things, that you're looking at, how he handles himself, his body language, how he interacts with others around him. And I don't think the kids are thinking about that. So to hear that from you, I think that's really good.
And another one that'd be good for your guys listening too is like, okay, when he misses a throw, because it's going to happen, is he cussing out the receiver? Does he own it? How quickly does he get back on track if he does miss a couple? Because they're going to miss one, you know what I mean? You don't want to, but it happens. Like, then I'm more glued in when he shanks one, like, okay, now how is he? You know what I mean? It's not that he missed the throw. I'm not Xing him off the list because he missed the throw. Like, how does he handle that teammate and how does he get back on track? Because that's football.
Yeah, that's great. We literally talk about that almost every time when we break it out at a session. It's don't let one rep impact the next. Or even I bring that up too. Like coaches will turn on your film, watch a bad play, right? See an interception. How do you handle yourself on the next drive? How do you handle
Man.
yourself when you come to the sideline, right? So it's like you can practice that in a training setting, and we try to preach that to our guys. Like one rep can't impact the next, and if one or two or three are starting to impact those next reps, then that's going to become an issue. And then I feel that you can practice that stuff and you can get better at it. So
No
those are some
doubt
of
you
the things
can.
we work on.
I think it's a great point to now touch on, right? It's just the nature of the game that even if you have a great year and you might have a bad game, there's a lot of natural ebbs and flows at the position, the highs and lows. How do you kind of navigate that with guys that you're bringing in and guys that might not have a great week or something like that? What's your coaching points, your preaching points for them after something like that happens?
Well, I think you guys hit it on the head, no different than you guys. Like, you can coach like emotional resilience, no different than mechanics or a read. Like our buzzword in our room is the thermostat. Like we're the thermostat of the team, not the thermometer. Like that whole analogy. Like just a quick buzzword on the field. Like you throw a pick six in practice. Like oh, great opportunity to practice being the thermostat. Like how do you get back in there? And just constantly, they're probably annoyed with how many times I've said the word thermostat on the field because it applies all the time. Like you're crushing the defense, like thermostat, dude. Like momentum is such a fickle thing, and you can't spiral one way or get super lax when things are going really well. You know what I mean? So it applies so often that I guarantee if you put a lie detector test to Drew, he's probably worn out of me saying the word thermostat. But I do believe it though. Like you can practice exactly what you're saying because you can't let one bad drive or one bad game or one bad whatever impact the next because that's life and that's certainly football. Like Coach Franklin's buzzword is like a 6 second mentality, like the average length of a play. Like that applies during winter workouts right now. If you get your ass kicked in a sled pull, it applies to you lose a one-on-one rep. And I believe fully that you can practice that. So just constantly, preaching that to where it's on the forefront of their brain because it will happen in a game. Like it will happen in a game or it will happen on a drive or two. Like how do you bounce back and swing the momentum the other way because it is so fickle?
Yeah,
Did
that's
you
gold.
did you pick up any of that philosophy from any adversity that you've faced in your life or Like,
Oh yeah.
or even in your playing career, like, was there a moment or a few moments that really helped that you learned from or helped mold you in that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, I mean, I went from the ACC Rookie of the Year to playing Division II football. Like, if you would have asked me after getting the trophy for that, hey, how's it going to end up? I wouldn't have guessed that playing at Catawba College, which I had a blast doing and learned a ton from. But like, my playing career is kind of an example of that. And then being able to battle back and have a cup of coffee in the league and play 6 years in Canada. Um, I feel like I have learned a ton of it from that, like the highs and the lows, and not getting too high, not getting too low, playing the next situation or the next game or the next season. Like that shaped me, and I stole that from some coach along the way, that thermostat deal, and it's applied to my life. It's applied to me as a coach, and just passing it on to the younger guys now. I think it's helped me a ton.
Yeah. And so if you were to give like one piece of advice to high school quarterbacks right now looking to become high level recruits, what would be your best piece of advice? Because obviously you see the good, you see the bad, you see the mistakes that kids make, you see the right paths that kids take. What would be maybe one piece of advice or just some advice that you could have for high school kids listening?
I would say to run your own race. Like, I think especially in today's day and age with social media and rankings and offers and verbal offers and this and that, it's very easy for kids to get really caught up in comparing themselves to someone else. And that would apply to the 4-star who wants to be a 5-star, the unranked kid, the kid who hasn't had a D1. It goes all the way down. Like, comparison is the thief of joy. So like, run your own race. Like, when you lay your head down at night, did I get better today? And the answer is not always going to be yes, but if it's yes more than no, and you run your own race and you just keep stacking days, you're putting yourself in the best position possible for wherever this game takes you at the next level. And it just eliminates so much stress of comparing and looking around all the time, which is way easier said than done, especially today's day and age. So I'll just say, dude, just like run your own race, put your next foot forward every single day, and the rest will take care of itself.
You made me think of something there with the rankings and the stars. You saw Signetti come out with he doesn't look at stars or care about stars. Do you guys, I mean, you see it, but how much does it impact anything at all for you guys? Or does it help identify like an initial kind of, okay, I should look at these guys, or is there any value in it for you?
I'm going to say as close to zero as possible. Like, in terms of offering, or you take, like, could
Yeah,
care
yeah,
less where
yeah.
they're ranked, where it's at. That if they happen to become highly ranked and highly recruited, cool. But we are pretty disciplined, and I believe this, of trusting our own evaluations, right? Because you might win a headline or a tweet if you grab the highly ranked kid, and that's the reason you took him, but you're a little bit iffy on it. Like, that might look good now, but like, is he really going to be a dude? Do you know what I mean? So to answer your question, not really at all. Maybe, yeah, there's a initial ranking, get you a kid that you might watch him earlier if he's ranked higher. Like, oh, let's check out this kid in the 2000 whatever class, and they put it out. Let's take a peek from out of your footprint or whatever. Like, yeah, maybe I'll watch him, but in terms of evaluating, like, could care less. Could care, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's good for our kids to hear as well.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's
yeah,
aligned
go.
with the run your race point. To just keep focused on getting better, right? And that's the key. I got a funny question, a little bit based like off the advice piece, like parents wise, and I feel like I kind of see this more than I never really heard many people talk about it, but I see it a lot. Like, what can a parent do in the recruiting process that's like a good thing, or should they just stay far, far away?
No, I think parents can play a really positive role in recruiting. I think helping ask good questions, you know what I mean, of things that matter to them in the family. Like, I think they're a big piece in it, because they might not be the ones playing football at a high level in high school, but they have life experience and certain values that can help a kid. Like, I think that for sure is a big piece. And I feel like a lot of parents of kids who are recruited have asked really, really good questions that maybe the kid wouldn't have asked or wouldn't have felt comfortable asking. So I think they should be a big part. They don't need to be, but I don't think they would need to leer away from the process at all. You know what I mean? Like, they know their kid and what matters to them. So I think them being a part of the process, I've always really enjoyed. Because they just have wisdom and perspective on things, big picture, and making big decisions that a lot of the kids just don't have. Yeah, so to answer your question, I think they should be a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's good, right? I think that's something that like it's you see you don't always see all the good stuff, right? But sometimes we'll see like a parent just kind of going AWOL on a social media platform, and it's like, man, I really wish that they didn't do that right there for that kid, right? But that's a much better perspective. I think that I had a little bit of a pessimistic outlook going into that question,
Well,
but
that makes sense too. Yeah, you don't want to be on Twitter going crazy because like, well, hold on a
yeah,
minute. Yeah,
right,
I
because
get
you
that.
never want to be like overbearing to the point where it's like, man, do we have to worry about that like with the kid that we're bringing in versus. But I like your perspective. Right? I think that's a lot better way to look at it. Is obviously like they're adults, right? They're fully grown. Like they've been in this position to make tough decisions. So the guidance there is obviously appreciated.
I guess the context would matter to my answer. Yeah, if they're going crazy on social media or stuff, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, hold on, like that's a piece of info too, for sure.
Last one for me, coach, because it's been awesome. Just what's your why? Like, why do you do it? What's your why? Like, obviously, you've ended up in a spot that so many people would dream to be in, and you've had an amazing career, but why do you do it?
The relationships, like the things that come along with the game for life, are the reason that I want to do it the rest of my life. Like being a part of these quarterbacks and these players' journeys, trying to be a positive impact on them, obviously making them better quarterbacks and realize their dream as a player and a teammate and to go on and play as long as possible. That's awesome. And I hope that for all of them. But whether you're the starter and the first round draft pick or a kid who doesn't play a lot, just the relationships that last a lifetime. Like my best friends in the world outside of my immediate family all came from football. I've been around the continent playing the game and now coaching the game. The relationship piece to me is why I do it and why I love coaching in college. I just think like high school through college is such a special age where they kind of become their own man, find their own identity and their own voice is really why I get up every day to do this. And I get to do it through football, which makes me very, very lucky because I haven't worked a day in my life because I love this sport and what it teaches people, but relationships, beyond a shadow of a doubt, are my why for why I do it.
Yeah,
It's
I think
awesome.
we'd all say the same too. Um, Bonus question: how fired up are you for Enter Sandman?
Super fired up for that, man. It's all I can't wait, dude. We played in the weight room and all that and the indoor and stuff, but I'm gonna get goosebumps sure coming out of the tunnel and hearing that thing in the stadium for the first time. I'm fired up.
Yeah, it's gonna be so cool.
Be
Jimmy, got
sick.
anything? Any last questions?
2032 quarterback class. You taking a look at Bobby Bork yet?
Am I allowed to talk about 2032s?
I don't
What
know.
are the things you're talking about?
Might be a violation.
I'm the wrong one to ask, but yeah,
That's funny. No, that's
I
good. Well,
love it.
Coach,
I love
listen,
it.
we appreciate you, man. That was awesome. I think our kids are gonna absolutely eat that up.
Awesome.
Yeah,
No, I appreciate you guys, man. It's awesome what you guys are doing. I think this is super, super valuable for them, and it's a cool platform. Not enough people are doing it, so appreciate you guys having me on, man.
and we'll see you this
Absolutely.
spring.
That's on the podcast. That's stamped. Everyone watch. We're coming down. I love it.